All right, this is going to be a video about my TOS lathe and a particular feature of it, something that seems to be unique to it. A couple of folks have asked me about this particular feature on this TOS lathe. I've never seen this on any other lathe. Now, aside from this one, I'm not familiar with European lathes. I've up till the time I had this, I had American lathes, American-made lathes, I should say, not necessarily an American. Would have loved to have had an American, like a pacemaker or something. But that's a segue. All right, anyway. And of course, over here, I have this lathe, which is Asian. I think this is Korean. But this TOS lathe, I just think this is an awesome machine. The only thing that I would like that would make it awesome, even better, is if it had just a little, more is better, bigger spindle hole. I think it tops out around 2.5 or something. But this lathe has been excellent. It's been an excellent lathe. I really like working on this lathe. And I do this particular job that you're seeing here now. Let me zoom in on this here. I do this job which requires, I guess, I don't know, what should you call it, sort of a broaching, an internal milling. I guess that's probably the best way to put it. So I've had to develop a way to do this, and as you can see here, the way I've been able to develop a way to do it is just what you see. I essentially took my right angle drill, and with some simple, turning, milling, and some creative mounting, I mount it right in my tool post. And this is just a cut-off end mill in a homemade holder to make that work. And this is kind of a niche job for me, so forgive me if I don't get too carried away with the details here. But the whole key of this is that this thing, the carriage, travels along, towards the chuck, in other words, it travels along without the spindle turning. And like I say, I've never seen that on any other lathe. A friend of mine has a TOS, and I told him about it, and his, I believe he said his does it as well. Now, again, I don't know if it's something particular to them. I don't know what it is or why it is, but I'm very thankful for it. So some people just absolutely do not, downright do not believe me. They think I'm kidding, and they ask me, well, how could you possibly be able to move the carriage on the lathe without the spindle turning? Well, what actually is able to happen is the spindle, I'm able to put the spindle, this is my spindle engagement lever here. There's a low side and a high side, as you can see by the chart here. And this is the lever that engages it or disengages it. These cans are here when I'm doing this to remind myself not to engage it. The way I have it now, the spindle remains in neutral. So it's not that the spindle locks, the spindle remains in neutral. And that's the reason, let me come down here, zoom in here a little bit. You see the machinist jack, and then I've got this chucked up, across the ways to hold the chuck, the spindle, from spinning, from moving, because again, this is essentially an internal milling operation. So there is, vibration, and of course, just from the machine running, there's movement. So So that's why that, And then just recently, I've made this as well, this safety strap. And I just, it's just a simple clamp down to the ways, and then it just goes into the back of the chuck, one of the extra threaded holes into the back of the chuck. Again, it's just to keep it from moving because the spindle is in neutral. And this thing, what I do is, as you can see, I take the piece here and I index it over, in fact, let me bring it over here. I set up just a simple rotary table here on the mill, and I index the part on the mill, and then I bring it back over here, and that's that's the mark on the one simple mark on the chuck here, and then the part is indexed, and I simply spin the thing around every time I'm going to make a new cut to the next mark, and that's how I do this. So again, what it is, I don't know whether you'd call it broaching or it's actually an internal milling operation, and like I said, that's the best way that I've been able to do it, and a large part of that has been because the carriage of the lathe will move independently of the spindle turning. So let me get this kind of set up, and I'll show you. Hold on, I'll be back. All right, as you can see, I've engaged the clutch. The machine is on, of course. I've engaged the clutch, and as you can see now, let me zoom in a little here. This is not predicated on the lead screw. In other words, it's not like the machine thinks it's cutting a thread. It's truly the feed for the carriage, not the lead screw. It doesn't think it's threading. It understands apparently, or whatever, or it is obviously on a feed. So, I'll show you what I mean. I will engage the feed lever here, as though and you see the handle is turning, and the carriage is moving along, independent of the chuck or the spindle turning. Spindle isn't moving. Yet we come down here, and the carriage is moving right along. Again, as you can see, there it is. So, those who don't believe me or have never seen this, there it is. It's actually happening. It actually works. And again, you can see here, zoom in a little bit here, you can see the carriage actually traveling along. Come up here a little bit, you can see how the thing is getting a little closer to the part here. So actually what I'll do is I will show you a couple of cuts here how I do this. Let me shut this off, and then I'll show you how I actually make some cuts here. All right, I've set my cross slide from my depth of cut. I've got the spindle turning on the drill, or what's going to be on my milling attachment, and now I'll engage the feed, and I will show you. Feed is engaged. I will show you how we're going to make a cut into this piece. There it is. And we're moving along. There it is as it travels. Traveling along. And then I don't have to be fearful. Like I said, it's not predicated on the lead screw, it's predicated on the actual carriage feed. So I can use my backstop here, which I do, to when it hits, disengage the feed lever. This is all set on center line, and that's why you'll see the orientation is as it is, with the chuck jaw set on center line so that the milling cutter has clearance to go inside there and not interfere with anything. I'll show you that once it stops and I retract it. I'll try to get inside there and show you what actually happens. Here it is, and it's back stop, disengage the feed lever, gonna walk back my TOS slide a little bit, and now we'll walk back the carriage by hand, take it out of there. I guess what we'll do is we'll shut it off. There's my high-tech trigger mechanism there. Wooden wedge. Oh, and we can come over here and shut off the spindle. Let me clean this out. Let me clean the chips out of here, and I'll try to show you inside the piece here. All right, here's a look inside the piece, looking right down it. As you can see, as I was explaining, if you look down the end of this line, that's right where, let me zoom in a little here, that's right where a chuck jaw is, because it needs that clearance. It has to be set that way because it needs the clearance for the cutter to actually run into that, so it doesn't, it doesn't slam into the chuck, So that's how that works. So let me see if I can set this back up. I reposition it. As I said, I simply do this. I index the piece, and that's what all these hash marks are. And then I just merely strike a line on the chuck and index the piece line for line, and that's how I do it. So let me see if I can get something set up, and maybe I can show you how how I randomly will make a few more of these, and I'll get this piece finished off. I know it's kind of hard to see because the head of this thing is pretty big. You can see a milling cutter there moving along. Say again, no fooling, you can see the carriage is moving along, getting closer and closer to the backstop, and it's traveling right along. You see the wheel moving itself. There we go, right up near the backstop, and then it's back to the feed lever, and boom. It clicks and releases itself up against the backstop. So, for those guys who ask me about this that, might be doubting me or whatever, it really does work. Let me reset this and make a few more cuts, and I'll show you how this finishes up. All right, last cut. We're coming right in. Finish off all the broken, whatever you want to call it, you can see how, clearance here, this thing just, there was a lot of designing. I fought with this thing quite a bit to get this thing to fly. It just barely makes it. When this piece is finished, I'll take it out and I'll show you the result. All right. That's it. That's all 16 of them. It takes, let me take this out of here so I can show you. Okay. 16 of these. It takes about, I don't know, let's see. Now, how are we going to do this here? I want to show you this thing here. Maybe without too much glare. This one? Oh boy. Can I zoom in? Anyway, that's how it finishes. It looks when it's, you know, when I'm finished with the actual, again, whatever you want to call it, broaching, internal milling, whatever. 16 equally spaced half inch pockets, channels, whatever you want to call them. Gee, I wish there was a good way that I could show this to you. I'm sure there is. Again, I just not too talented with this whole video thing. This, let me zoom a little in here. Zoom in here. This part, this safety strap, this I made only recently. The last time I was running these. I run, you know, 8 or 10 or 12 of these at a time. Up until this, I would only use this system here, which, like I said, was the machinist jack on the, you know, plate across piece of aluminum here and bridged the ways, and that was okay. But like I said, the chuck is in neutral. The spindle is in neutral. It's not locked, and that usually was okay. But I guess whatever, maybe I didn't have it quite set right or whatever, and it went a little bit off. And the result, let me show you this one. You can see this one here, the NG, no good. The result was about, you know, more than about 3/4 of the way done. Was what you see here. I get this thing. That was the result. As you can see, I was going along pretty well, but man, why can't I get this thing in a good position here? Anyway, it ran off to the side because apparently the thing was, you know, this, you know, thing is running along, milling, and you know, and it is, again, you got the lathe is running, you know, the carriage is feeding, there's vibration, this is, you know, there's a bit of force on there, you know, I'm doing a, you know, a little over a 16th depth of cut on the mill, you know, so like I said, I guess it just wasn't enough, and it kind of ran off on me there. So that was when I decided to make this extra safety strap here. Very simple, just, you know, holds up against the ways here, and it's just a piece welded, and then it just bolts into the back of an extra hole, threaded hole in the back of the chuck there. But I feel much better now having that. You know, it certainly will, you know, if something should go wrong, at least, you know, I won't ruin, you know, a whole piece because the thing got away, you know, because I mean, there's a lot of work that goes into these pieces. There really is. So, you know, I don't want that to happen, you know, any more than it has to. So, yeah, so that's that. But anyway, like I say, there's our, here's a good one. here's one that actually worked, and most of them do. And that's the way it finishes up with the, again, whatever you want to call it, internal milling, broaching, you know, whatever. That's the way that works, and seems to work pretty well. So that's my setup, and again, just, you know, for anybody who was wondering, the guys who asked me, or like I said, those who didn't believe, yeah, this really does work. You know, and that's it. Again, just like as though I was doing any other type operation, make believe the spindle was turning. You merely, you know, I come over, I engage the clutch, you can see the feed is working, and take my feed lever, engage it. There's my feed wheel, there's my hand wheel, it's turning. Here we are at the carriage, it's moving right along. So, it works. There you go. So, I'll leave you with that, and as always, I appreciate you watching. If you'd like to subscribe and see some more, hopefully entertaining and interesting stuff, feel free. I certainly would appreciate it. And I thank you again. And as always, as some famous guy once said, everybody polka. See you next time.